In our headlines on this Thursday, March 5th, here in South Korea, U.S. Senate Republicans vote down a Democrat effort to limit Donald Trump's authority on additional military action against Iran. Here in Seoul, President Lee Jae-myung stresses the safety of South Korean nationals in the Middle East as the government's most urgent priority. And the local stock market and currency regain some ground, while the price of gasoline soars past 1,800 won for the first time in over 3 years. The U.S. Senate has voted against a Democrat-led resolution that sought to restrict President Donald Trump's power for further military action against Iran. Moon Hye-ryun covers that vote and more.
U.S. senators on Wednesday rejected a bid to halt President Donald Trump's military campaign against Iran, signaling early support for the war. The War Powers Resolution, which would have required congressional approval for further strikes, failed in a largely party-line vote, with a similar showdown now looming in the House on Thursday. The vote comes as President Trump doubles down on the campaign, issuing a stark warning after Iran's supreme leader was killed in joint U.S.-Israeli airstrikes over the weekend. Trump said anyone who appears eager to assume Iran's top post ends up dead, while praising what he calls the success of Operation Epic Fury, claiming Iranian missiles and launch systems are being rapidly wiped out. At the Pentagon, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth struck a similarly forceful tone. According to Reuters, Hegseth said the U.S. was winning decisively under Trump's direct command and highlighted a major naval strike against one of Iran's most prized warships.
An American submarine sunk an Iranian warship that thought it was safe in international waters. Instead, it was sunk by a torpedo. Quiet death.
Even as U.S. officials highlight gains, questions are growing about whether the conflict could widen further on the ground. Fox News reported Wednesday that thousands of Kurdish fighters had launched a ground offensive inside Iran, while the Associated Press cited Kurdish sources claiming Washington had sought their support. The White House has denied those claims, with spokesperson Caroline Leavitt saying the U.S. is not backing an uprising, a position Hegseth has echoed, denying any U.S. role in arming Kurdish groups. With the conflict already expanding across the region, Turkey's Ministry of National Defense said Wednesday that a missile fired from Iran toward Turkish airspace had been shot down by NATO. Israel has continued to strike Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon, while Iranian missiles have targeted Israel and Gulf states. According to the US-based human rights activists in Iran, the war has already killed over 1,000 civilians in Iran, while global energy markets and international travel have been disrupted. Behind the scenes, diplomacy appears uncertain. The New York Times reports that Iranian intelligence officials quietly reached out to the CIA through intermediaries shortly after the fighting began, signaling interest in talks. U.S. officials remain skeptical, and Trump has since declared it too late for negotiations. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
And here in South Korea today, President Lee Jae-myung convened an extraordinary cabinet meeting in light of the events unfolding in the Middle East. Our Blue House correspondent Song Yu-jin covers that meeting.
Just a day after returning from his 4-day trip to Southeast Asia, President Lee Jae-myung convened an extraordinary cabinet meeting on Thursday to discuss the situation in the Middle East.
중동 지역 위기가 고조되면서 글로벌 경제 안보 환경이 많이 악화되고 있습니다. 각 부처는 엄중한 상황 인식을 바탕으로 예상 가능한 모든 문제들에 대해서 신속한 대책을 빠짐없게 또 세밀하게 추진해 나가야 되겠습니다.
He described the safety of Korean nationals in affected regions as the government's most urgent priority. He instructed officials to closely monitor the situation and prepare contingency plans for possible emergency evacuations, including the use of military aircraft and chartered flights if necessary.
We will dispatch 2 ambassador-level officials with experience in the Middle East and consular affairs on Thursday night to lead a government joint rapid response team. As a precaution, we will also issue advisories on the ground and prepare for possible evacuation operations.
The president also urged vigilance over potential economic fallout from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, through which about 1/5 of the world's oil is shipped. He placed particular emphasis on energy supplies such as crude oil and gas, noting that disruptions would have direct repercussions across related industries and people's livelihoods.
원유, 가스, 나프타 등에 대한 긴급 수급 안정책과 함께 중장기적으로 수입처를 다각화하는 방안을 신속하게 추진해 주시기 바랍니다.
According to the industry ministry, the country holds petroleum reserves equivalent to roughly 7 months of supply. For natural gas, supplies could last until late November, assuming contracted shipments from sources such as Australia and the United States continue as planned. President Lee says if handled properly, the situation could rather serve as a chance to strengthen the economy, from stabilizing South Korea's overheated financial markets to accelerating its transition away from crude oil to renewable energy. 송유진, Arirang News.
Indeed, the president has also called for a crackdown on any attempt to abuse the economic fallout from tensions in the Middle East as the price of gasoline soars here in the country. Our Kim Do-yeon reports.
At the extraordinary cabinet meeting held on Thursday due to the Middle East situation, President Lee Jae-myung emphasized protecting the economy. His remarks came specifically after the national average price of gasoline surpassed 1,800 won for the first time in about 3 years and 7 months. The national average price for regular gasoline rose 2.5% on Thursday from the previous day to 1,821 won per liter, while automotive diesel jumped 4.76% to 1,811 won per liter. The president strongly emphasized the need to crack down on foul play, taking advantage of the current situation, and ordered the cabinet to devise measures to prevent price gouging.
관광지에 손님 많이 오니까 바가지 씌워야지 이런 거 지금 제재하잖아요. 네, 이 석유 판매에 대해서는 이게 바가지 아닙니까? 이 바가지에 대해서는 제재할 법적 근거가 현재는 없다는 겁니까?
President Lee also stressed the importance of protecting the stock markets, which have been surging over the past few months before being heavily impacted by the Middle East situation. He ordered his cabinet to properly and swiftly execute and manage the 100 trillion won market stabilization program. For now, the local stock market rebounded on Thursday. The benchmark Kospi closed at 5583.90, up 9.63% from the day before. During trading, a buy-side sidecar was activated due to the rapid surge. The recovery follows a historical fall of 12.06% on Wednesday when a circuit breaker was activated. The Kosdaq index also closed at 1116.41, surging 137.97 points, or 14.1% from the previous session. This marks the largest increase in its history. Regarding the market volatility, President Lee ordered strict protection measures against market manipulation and fake news.
이럴 때 기승을 부리는 가짜 뉴스 유포, 또 시세 교란 같은 범죄 행위도 철저하게 차단하기 바랍니다. 특히 국민 경제의 혼란을 조장해서 이익을 취하려는 그런 세력들에 대해서는 무관용의 원칙으로 엄중하게 책임을 물어야 되겠습니다.
Meanwhile, the local currency strengthened slightly against the greenback. The $1 exchange rate closed at 1467.04 down 0.62% from the previous day. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Also here in Seoul, the top diplomats of Iran and Israel stationed here in the capital city hosted separate press conferences earlier today to share their respective government stances amid their latest confrontation. Our foreign affairs correspondent Oh Soo-young reports.
Fears of a prolonged conflict in the Middle East are reverberating beyond the region, as Iran and Israel's top diplomats convey clashing narratives to the Korean public. Meeting with reporters in Seoul, Iran's ambassador Saeed Ghuzaichi said on Thursday that his government is prepared for a long war with the United States and Israel, stating there is currently no plan to return to nuclear negotiations as long as attacks on Iran continue. As the conflict stretches out, he said there could be far-reaching implications for East Asia, where economies such as South Korea rely heavily on energy supplies from the Middle East. The ambassador also noted the possibility that US forces stationed in South Korea could be deployed to the region.
The US has denied this, but we do not trust their response. If you understand Iran's geography, ground deployments make no sense. If the U.S. wants to take reckless actions, we welcome it, and many people will die.
He rejected accusations of Tehran's nuclear weapons development as false propaganda and a pretext to justify pressure and war. In sharp contrast, Rafael Harpas, Israel's ambassador to South Korea, held a press conference the same morning. He defended the initial February 28 strikes as necessary to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons and expanding its ballistic missile capabilities, and to protect Iranian civilians from a brutal regime. He claimed Iran had already reached the final stages of nuclear development last year.
Iran is deceiving, cheating the international community for how many decades about nuclear program for peaceful use? Iran wants nuclear program for one. If they want to drag the time in negotiation, the world gave them one chance, another chance, another chance. If we wait, they will become nuclear like North Korea.
The Foreign Ministry has expressed grave concern over the escalating situation, with hope that dialogue and negotiations will soon be resumed. It also reaffirms Ho's strong commitment to the global non-proliferation regime as it actively participates in international efforts to address the Iranian nuclear issue. Seoul also says it's closely monitoring developments between the US, Israel and Iran, focusing on the safety of Korean nationals in the region and safeguarding global energy supplies. Seoul, Arirang News.
The Trump administration's military campaign against Iran has raised questions about its policy on North Korea. For now, officials say no connection should be made and that there is no change in the U.S.'s stance on the regime. Our Lee Seung-jae has details.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says Washington's ongoing military operation against Iran will send plenty of signals as the United States moves to address Tehran's nuclear ambitions. Hegseth made the remarks during a press briefing on Wednesday on the U.S. military campaign, codenamed Operation Epic Fury, which began Saturday in coordination with Israel. Responding to a question about North Korea's criticism of the operation, the defense secretary said the situation involving Iran should not be viewed in connection with other countries. He stressed that the United States remains focused on dealing with Iran's nuclear ambitions, adding that the steps taken in the process will send clear signals. His comments came after Pyongyang condemned the U.S.-Israel campaign on Sunday, calling it an unlawful act and a violation of Iran's sovereignty. Meanwhile, the White House says Washington's policy toward North Korea remains unchanged. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Wednesday there has been no shift in the U.S. position on North Korea when asked whether the strike on Iran over its nuclear program would affect Washington's approach toward Pyongyang. The Trump administration maintains what it describes as a dual-track strategy toward North Korea, combining strong deterrence with a high degree of diplomatic flexibility. While the administration continues to uphold the goal of complete denuclearization officially, Washington has shown a shift toward nuclear management and a de facto acknowledgement of North Korea's nuclear status. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And across the border in North Korea, Kim Jong-un appears to have adopted a strategic intention, according to one pundit here, to flex military muscle. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung explains.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un inspected his regime's new 5,000-ton destroyer, the Cheon, for 2 consecutive days ahead of its commissioning and watched tests of ship-launched surface-to-surface strategic cruise missiles. According to the Korean Central News Agency on Thursday, Kim toured the destroyer at the Nampo shipyard on March 3rd and 4th to review its operational capabilities and the combat training of her crew. Touting that the ship's maneuverability met requirements, he said the destroyer was a new symbol of the regime's maritime defense capability. Regarding the simultaneous launches of at least 4 strategic cruise missiles, Kim reportedly called the test a core element in evaluating the ship's operational capabilities. One expert says the move appears aimed at showcasing North Korea's military strength.
This likely reflects a strategic intention to demonstrate military strength in response to the situation involving Iran in the Middle East and as a counter to the upcoming South Korea-U.S. joint military exercises.
Kim ordered the construction of a further 2 Cheon-class warships displacing 5,000 tons or more every year for the next 5 years, underlining the need to boost the regime's maritime capability. During his visit, Kim also looked over the 3rd Cheon-class destroyer being built at the shipyard, which has a targeted completion date of October 10th, the anniversary of the founding of the Workers' Party of Korea.
Since its naval power significantly lags behind that of South Korea and the U.S., such aforementioned plans may be part of an effort to boost its nuclear-capable naval forces.
The Cheon is the regime's first newly built operational 5,000-ton destroyer and was launched on April 25th last year. This was followed by the launch of a second in the class, the Gangon, though it partially capsized during an initial launch attempt. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
The Cabinet today approved major bills, including 3 judicial reform laws and a revision to the Commercial Act. The judicial reform package seeks to expand the number of Supreme Court justices, punish judges and prosecutors for deliberately distorting the application of law, and allow individuals to file constitutional complaints against court rulings. The Cabinet also approved a special act on administrative integration of the Jeollanam-do province and Gwangju region. The Commercial Act revision, which takes effect immediately, requires companies to cancel newly acquired treasury shares within 1 year and existing holdings within 18 months. President Lee Jae-myung and First Lady Kim Hye-kyung hosted members of Team Korea for lunch at the Blue House today, given their performance at this year's Winter Games in Italy.
대한민국을 가슴에 새기고 한계를 뛰어넘는 도전으로 뜨거운 감동과 자부심을 안겨준 대한민국 국가대표 선수단 여러분, 여러분들이 대한민국의 자부심입니다. 고맙습니다.
The President also applauded the coaching staff as well as the Korean Sports and Olympic Committee's meal service team for their respective roles. He further pledged full support for winter sports by expanding training facilities that meet international standards, among other efforts. Over in Barcelona, Korea's smaller businesses are sharing their technological innovations at this year's Mobile World Congress. And our business correspondent Park Chun-an was there to explore them firsthand.
At the Mobile World Congress, companies, exhibitors, and potential buyers from 200 countries gather to discover hidden gems in the tech world. It's not just global mega companies that showcase their latest technologies. Here at MWC, there are dedicated pavilions like this one to promote small and medium-sized Korean businesses. This year, 131 SMEs from Korea participated to showcase technologies tailored for global markets. Among them, there was one company which was nominated for this year's Global Awards, often called the Oscars of the mobile industry. That company was N-Open. It provides biometric authentication and identity verification solutions using on-device AI and a physically isolated token system, enabling secure authentication without relying on servers or the cloud.
We are extremely proud that our solution was nominated for the GLOMO Awards, especially given the challenging environment for entering the biometrics market in Europe. Going forward, we will continue to make every effort to ensure that our solution can make a full-scale entry into the European market.
A potential buyer from Spain who visited Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency's pavilion praised the technology on display.
I think the main interest is the technology of Korean companies, because Korean technology is amazing, is cutting edge, one of the best in the world. Apart from sales, which is our core objective, we can also support them in all the regulatory compliance and the setup process.
As of Wednesday local time, participating SMEs had recorded 556 business consultations, with expert consultations reaching around $195 million and contracts under negotiation totaling $18.6 million. Park Chun-an, Arirang News, Barcelona.
And And as we've been reporting in recent times, Korea and France celebrate 140 years of diplomatic relations this year. And to mark the occasion, a series of elaborate shows are in the works. Our culture correspondent Park Gun-woo reports.
Kicking things off in March will be a collaboration between South Korea's Busan Philharmonic Orchestra and French musicians.
Yes, I'm really excited to perform here for this beautiful event and to perform for my first time. Also to discover a bit about the country and the culture, I hope, and the audience.
The orchestra's principal conductor, who's also French, said he enjoys collaborating with Korean artists whom he considers highly talented, while also sharing his experience working with K-pop acts like Stray Kids earlier this year.
What was really extraordinary was the reception of the audience, and the public was right behind me, and I could hear like 30,000 French, and they know all the lyrics. Music and culture is more globally shared, so I would say it belongs to everyone. Yeah, it's a really special experience to be able to make music here in Korea.
After becoming the most streamed K-pop group in France last year, Stray Kids saw member Felix named an honorary ambassador for the 140th anniversary of Korea-France diplomatic ties, alongside legendary movie star Chun Ji-hyun.
We think that cinema and music are the perfect arts to bring our young generation together. It's really a universal language. So for us it was important to have celebrities, personalities coming from those two major art scenes.
As June marks the month when the two countries first established diplomatic relations, a number of events are planned, including a performance by legendary soprano Cho Soo-mi at Deoksugun Palace for the official 140th anniversary ceremony. Another highlight is the K-pop Song Camp, where rising French composers visit Korea to collaborate. The program's returning for its second edition after the success of its inaugural event last year.
We aim to further strengthen the relationship in all aspects so that we can leave a significant legacy together. In particular, this time we've prepared a wide range of cultural events to engage all generations, especially the younger generation.
With more and more of these cultural events set to take place around the corner, the bilateral relationship between Korea and France is expected to grow even stronger throughout the year. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
Today is Gyeongchip, the seasonal point that symbolizes nature awakening from winter sleep. And true to the season, we had milder than usual temperatures, but rain and snow will return this evening, starting from the west. Most regions will receive 5 to 20 millimeters of rainfall, while mountainous areas of Gangwon-do province and central inland regions might see snow instead through tomorrow. And today's wet weather will bring colder air to the country. Afternoon highs in most parts will be 4 to 5 degrees lower than today. However, the morning will be as chilly as today. Seoul begins the day at 2 degrees Celsius, Gwangju at 3 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul and Daejeon will only get up to 6 degrees Celsius, Gwangju, Jeju topping out at 9 degrees. And air quality could be as bad as today in the west of central regions. Morning temperatures will go down to below freezing over the weekend. With that in mind, here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session, so do stay with us and thank you for
for now.